Hey, what's up, everyone? A new edition of The Mental Game is here. Sam Brief in the studio overlooking beautiful Chicago. And we got a great one for you today. You're really going to like this. It's a piggyback off of March Madness, a powwow with someone on a mid-major program that made waves in the NCAA Tournament with an upset win. This is Sha Carter from 12-seeded Florida Gulf Coast, which took down the Pac-12 champs, 5-seeded Washington State in that classic 12-over-5 first-round upset. Now, about half of this podcast is take us through what happened, right? The mentality of an upset, from conception when you find out who you're playing to the final buzzer when you go, oh crap, we did this, and all the interviews and all the adoration pour in. Florida Gulf Coast story was really interesting, and Sha tells that really well. How this was a team that was 32-3 in the regular season and Atlantic Sun tournament. They actually were a 1.5-point favorite. So some would tell you this wasn't an upset, but it's a 12-over-5, so it is. And Sha Carter takes us through it masterfully. But even more than that, Sha is an incredible guest because she has a really strong mental game that honestly I learned from, and I know you'll learn from. One of the most positive, upbeat, energetic people I've met, and someone who's really ahead of her age, mature, beyond her years. I just used two cliches back to back, but they're cliches because they're true, certainly about Sha. She's from Michigan. She wouldn't show me where on the hand she's from, but she's from Southland, Michigan, and then went to Walsh University, a D2 school in Ohio. Arguably the best player in program history. The first to score 2,000 points, got her bachelor's degree in psychology from there, and then is now getting her master's at FGCU, Florida Gulf Coast, where she was a stud this season, second leading scorer for the conference champs, who again had that first round upset over Washington State before their season ended against 4-seeded Villanova in pretty much a true road game. But you'll come for the upset talk and you'll stay for Sha. She is fantastic, she is wonderful, and she is the next guest on the Mental Game podcast. And now Sha Carter joins the Mental Game from her apartment in Florida just after finishing her final season at Florida Gulf Coast. What is up, Sha? Welcome to the Mental Game.
Hi, Sam. How are you?
I'm good. I'm already making you laugh. This is a good start.
Yes. You have very good energy. I like it.
Thank you. You have good energy, too. I can tell this is going to be a fun vibe on the podcast.
Yes.
Listeners, whether they're walking around a city street or driving on their way to work, they're gonna listen to the next hour or so and really vibe with us, get in a good mood.
I like that. I
want to start with what you're wearing because folks who are watching on YouTube can see it. Folks who are listening on Apple or Spotify, they can't see it. So tell me the story behind this shirt. It says Sha 2K22 with an awesome silhouette of you dribbling.
Yes. So for my senior night at Walsh University, so my 4th year there, my mom brought out pretty much every single family member and friend I could think of, packed out the stands for me, and she made these shirts. So like you said, it's a Sha 2K22, kind of like the 2K game. And I scored 2,000 points in my 4-year career at Walsh University. So I became the all-time leading scorer there and just the first woman to break 2,000 points. So the shirt itself symbolizes that. Then, of course, just 2K as a game. And I love my mom. She's so creative. So her making these shirts was a surprise to me. So now to have my own little one just makes my heart warm.
It's so cool. And it looks like a 2K cover. I want to play that game, Sha 2K22. And an amazing accomplishment, of course, to score 2,000 points, first in program history. Super successful at Walsh University in Ohio. And then you transfer to a D1 school in Florida Gulf Coast for your final season. Now, Sha, was a smash hit, right? You guys won 32 games in the regular season and conference tournament. You win the Atlantic Sun, and then you go to the NCAA tournament, which for you was your first D1 NCAA tournament. So I want to start in the mental game of that moment. Selection night. You get slated to go to Villanova as a 12 seed and face 5-seeded Washington State. What was that night like inside your mind?
Well, so we were already coming off a high of winning the ASUN tournament. And I know for everybody else who's been here before, like people who are like, this is my first year here. So for me, winning it, that was something new for me. Everybody else is kind of like, well, this is what we're supposed to do. And I'm like, oh, I love that for you guys, but I'm going to enjoy this moment. So we definitely bonded over that. The season wasn't as pretty as people may have think, like outside looking in. And we definitely had some our own mental just struggles. So for us to win the ASUN was a big deal. And then just that night, again, everything was a different experience for me. So I've had selection Sundays in the past, but it was more so just my team. And we'd be in a room and we'd watch it. This year, though, we were in the gym. Fans were there. The band was there. Cheerleaders were there. All the trophies were out. The cameras, the everything. And it was such a, just one of those moments you're like, oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, this is real. And it just felt really good to be beloved. And I know just women's sports is finally getting the recognition that we deserve and things like that. So to see the community come out to support us, to watch us get selected was amazing. And then each one of us got introduced, and the cameras and the lights and just the happiness and overjoyment of being selected, period. We knew we were going to be in the tournament, but what seed? And something about that 12th seed just continues to be successful for this program. So we were excited, and we definitely rocked it. Understand that we're the underdogs. Typically, we don't get a lot of respect, but we don't let that overshadow the confidence that we have in ourselves. So it was an awe-inspiring moment, huge, and we were just excited. We're ready to play.
You mentioned the lights, camera, action situation,
Yes.
right? And of course, the difference between selection Sundays in the past and this one. Playing D1, I think a lot of fans are often curious about this. How much do lights, camera, action affect you and how you can stay focused and inside of yourself?
I definitely will say it's different. I will admit my first few games of the season were rough. Like, we had a lot of fans at Walsh, not nearly as many at Alico Arena. So it definitely was something like a culture shock and something I'm like, I have to get used to quickly. And I didn't adapt as quickly as I would have wanted to. I could feel myself struggling the first, I'll say 5-ish games. It hadn't really hit me that I was playing at a D1 level yet. Like, and I just was mentally, I was all over the place. But I do think once I settled and just kind of relaxed, it just was fun. Like, the cameras catching me dancing on the court every other game, that I didn't know that. So I'm like, oh, okay. So when I just stick to just being who I am, the cameras catch what they catch. And when I see it after the game, it's always a good laugh. Because I'm like, oh, you got me doing that celebration. You caught me dancing on the court. But it's also like, it does make you have to remember, like, you have to lock in, because the camera's always rolling. You never know when it's going to be on your face and things like that. Versus at Walsh, like, the cameras weren't as up close until it was like the tournament time and games and things like that. So it definitely plays a factor. I will admit that. But once you're just comfortable, you're just out there having fun.
You said cameras rolling, you have to lock in. How do you lock in?
See, I feel like I'm not as serious as people would think. You know, some people are like, I need my headphones in. I got to get in the zone. I am a goofy individual. So if any games that you guys happen to see, like, I'm dancing to pregame warm-ups, I'm laughing. Yes, all of that. I'm like, you got to get the good vibes going. And when it's time for the jump ball, then it's like a switch. Now I'm ready, like, let's go. But I feel like it's one of those, when I stop having fun with it, I'll be done with it. And I will never not smile. And I feel like my entire career, that's what I've always heard. Like, you're always smiling on the court. And I'm like, because there's nothing to be angry about. Just kind of I get to go out there and do my passion every day. So there's no downside to that. So for me to lock in, the music's got to be good. But my biggest thing to help get me going is to get my team going. I'm cheering, I'm clapping, trying to focus up on my shots that I'm taking in the game. And then I pray with my mom before every single game, whether I call her or she's there and we pray together. That's usually my moment where I'm like, okay, let's lock the team in. Let's bring the team in together and making sure everybody's in good spirits.
Good vibes.
Yes.
Right? That's what you need. That's how you lock in. Everyone does it differently, right? We see so many athletes with the beats on, looking serious. You can't bother them. Shay, you remind me a lot about myself, the way I lock in, because, I do play-by-play, and much like an athlete, I treat it like an athlete. I've got to lock in for a broadcast. And when I was younger, I would experiment with different ways to lock in. Sometimes I would be really serious or work or whatever. What I've found works best is just go out, chat with the crew, chat with
Yeah.
fans, eat a good meal, hang out, like ask
Hmm.
interesting, like hypothetical questions and have fun debates about things that have nothing to do with basketball. That's how I
Hmm.
lock in. It sounds like you and I are cut from like a somewhat similar cloth.
No, I agree. And I feel like I've tried to do the whole let me be super serious, let me straight face, no talking. And I'm like, it just doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel like that's me. So I can start that way, try to get in my mode, but it never stays that way. I'm always laughing on the court, having a good time. Because I feel like when you overthink about stuff or you're super anxious or nervous, then now you're second guessing a lot of different things. Now there's too many nerves, and I'm like, I let myself have a moment and I let it go, and then I just go out there and try to just have fun and do what I can do.
You mentioned nerves. Now, a
Yes.
moment that would induce a lot of nerves for a lot of people, including me, is
Mm-hmm.
playing in my first Division I NCAA tournament. You guys head to Philly. You're the 12 seed facing 5 seeded Washington State.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with that seeding, you guys were 32-3, Florida Gulf Coast, entering the tournament.
Yes.
In fact, you were so successful that you were actually a 1.5 point favorite in Las
Mm.
Vegas over Washington State, which you don't always see, of course, with a
Oh
12 over
wow, I didn't know
5.
that.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah, okay. I
No.
mean, got to shut out the noise, right? Yeah, you guys, you guys were loaded, right? So did you think there was any disrespect at the time getting a 12 seed?
And so I feel like this is where my story always tends to deviate from everybody else's on the team because you have like Emma List and TK and Kay and Kiki, just people and Maddie who have been here for years. So they are, of course, are taking it a lot more personal. Like, oh my goodness, of course, we're the 12th seed. And I'm just happy to be here. But of course, I got it. Like some of the stuff I did hear, like afterwards, of course, things like we're having a 30-win season. This isn't our first 30-win season. Like they won 30 games last year and things like that. Like it's getting disrespectful at this point. But for me, I'm like, I like it. I love being counted out. I love when people are like, oh, these people shouldn't be here. Like, oh, this is going to be an easy win, which is why I didn't know that we were favored to win. Like, I always just thought the higher seed was always picked to win because typically that's how it goes. So for me, I was like, oh, I love it. Now let's go shock the world. And we did. So that was great for me. And I think that everybody who's used to being underseated, I guess is what you would call it, they use that as the same motivation. I know TK definitely did. We had a conversation about it. She's just like, it gets to the point where you're used to it, but then you just keep going out and shocking the world. And then at some point, they're going to have to flip the script and give us the proper seating.
You said shock the world a few times there. That's a phrase we hear so much in March in
Mm-hmm.
all the NCAA tournaments at every level, right? These upsets happen so much, and it takes the
Yes.
right mentality to make it happen. How would you describe personal mentality for Shea and
Mm-hmm.
team mentality for the Eagles heading into that first round matchup?
Okay. Well, I would say, okay, I'll start with the team. Coach Semesco had a really good phrase that I liked. He was saying, we're going to play with I don't know if, was it hustle? We're going to play with the hustle of an underdog, but the confidence of a great team. Symbolizing that, yes, we are the underdog in this situation. We're 12th seed going against the 5th seed. We lack height, which is always the thing that comes up in the tournament that we're not as big, we're not as tall. And, of course, just that people are always like, are you guys really going to win? What happened if you guys aren't shooting the three very well? Things like that. Playing into that, just understanding and recognizing that we definitely have the cards stacked up against us. However, to not take any credit away from the things that we have accomplished this year. We definitely broke and set some records on our own prior to the tournament. So just understand that we were supposed to be there and just we got to play in with that confidence of we were there because we played FGCU basketball. We played for each other. We did the right things because they're the right things to do. That I felt like resonated with everybody on the team. So we're going out there, and of course, in the beginning of the game, our threes weren't falling. Some of the things that we were used to doing, we weren't getting into them so easily. However, we just found another way to play. We were attacking the boards, we were attacking drives, and I think it really just resonated with everybody. People were stepping up off the bench, and you could see it, the hunger that and passion that everybody had. And then for myself, my whole journey has just been not necessarily trying to prove anybody wrong, but more so to prove to myself or remind myself, like, that I've worked hard to be where I'm at. Like nothing is by happenstance. So to be on this platform, transferring was a big deal for me. I'm never someone who wants to leave something that I didn't finish. And not saying I didn't finish at Walsh because I did my 4 years, but I'm like, I want to challenge myself, see what do I look like on that next level of competition. And I said, you're going to have to work. It's going to be hard. You make this decision. There's no turning back. Trusted myself, trusted God, and Carl Semesko. That man challenges me in every way. But one of the best decisions I've ever made. So to be at that moment, I knew I just had to stay mentally locked in, but calm. That was my biggest thing, to remind myself to just stay level headed. Whatever happens, happens. But it was an exciting feeling. And I ended up having a good game that game, but more importantly, like Emma List and Maddie Antonucci came out of nowhere having this fire underneath them, and it was electric. So for me, that got me going more than my own individual motivation. I'm like, let's keep this going. Everybody deserves to feel how I was feeling. So that's what, for me, my motivation was. Whatever I got to do to help us continue to win, I will do. Whether it's cheering on the bench, grab another rebound, taking a charge, things like that. So that's what it was for me. I just wanted to be a part of history by any means necessary.
Staying mentally locked in and confident and trusting yourself, three important things I'm hearing from you, might be tough at the beginning of that game, right? Because the way this game flowed, Washington State, the big bad 5 seed Pac-12 champions, they run out. They're up 9-2 after 3 minutes. You guys are looking around saying what?
It's very easy to quit when a team is going on their run and just kind of like give up hope. I will say we have a lot of veterans. Our starting 5, I think all except for one person, we're all 5th-year seniors. And except, Emma's a 6th-year. Emma's our grandmother. Oh, Emma and Soph. Emma List and Sophia Stiles were 6th years.
Right. Nowadays, you can have like a 16th-year senior.
Yes. So we were definitely all veterans in the game, and just understanding, again, that basketball is a game of runs, but trusting each other to stay home and not to force anything. That was kind of our biggest thing, of understanding, like, listen, as long as we move the ball, we get the right looks, the shots will fall. It's just when we start doing, I would say, crazy things, like just start chucking up shots, trying to force the ball in the basket, that's when we're not at our best. So that was our biggest thing. Yes, they came out punching, but we got the last hit, and that was all that mattered. I call it body blows. So, in a boxing match, you're boxing, right? Obviously, everybody wants a KO, but to win the match is about, the number of blows that's landed. So body blows, you just keep punching, keep digging. And that's what we did. They knocked us down a couple of times. We got back up. We came together. And I think that's 100% how we won the game, just staying together.
And inside your own mind, you already brought up the gravity of the transfer decision. Mm-hmm. You knew this would be your final year of college basketball. No eligibility left. You can't be a 16th-year senior like some. So I often think about this during March Madness. How much is all that in your head? Like, oh, crap, if we lose this game, I will never play college basketball again.
It actually wasn't on my mind. And I feel like people were trying to put that in my head. And for whatever reason, I couldn't. Like, I wouldn't take that, because for me, I knew this wasn't the end of my basketball career in its entirety. I knew no matter what, I'm like, college might be done, but I'm going to continue to play. However, I feel like when you get in those moments of, oh my gosh, this could be the end, this could be my last game, that's what I'm saying. You start fumbling and nervous and anxious and things like that, and you just kind of let those thoughts consume you. I just wanted to be present in that moment with my girls, to give everything I have. If it's my last game, I can say I gave everything I had. If it's not, I'm like, let's go one more. Let's keep going. So I think for me, I never want to think about it. I know my mom, because she wanted to come to the game. She wanted to come to the Washington State game, and she couldn't. And that's when she was like, because this could potentially be your last game. And I was like, no, it's not, because we're going to win. I was like, so I'll see you Monday. And she's just like, I know, but like, what if? And I'm like, no. And I just had some friends text me similar things. And I'm like, I wasn't trying to think, like, I'm literally like, no, guys, I'm not listening to you. This isn't going to be my last game. And of course, when the moment hit, it was bittersweet, but it was never something that was a pressing matter on my mind, because I didn't want it to be. I didn't want to have to play my game, and as I'm playing, I'm kind of sad and you're like, oh, That was my last layup. That was my last free throw. That was my just wanted to have fun still. Same way I started was the same way I wanted to go out.
That's way easier said than done, though. And
Yes.
I'm really impressed that you were able to do it, because a lot of people in that situation would say, oh, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about it. But then they would, right?
Yes.
The night before, they might be tossing and turning. Oh, God, this might be my last game, right? And you might be putting on a happy face, but struggling inside with that. So what was your strategy for actually committing to just focusing on the game and shutting out all those thoughts?
Well, it was just that. It was literally to just focus on the game. And it wasn't like I was actively fighting the thoughts like, no, don't think about it. No, don't think about it. I did it. And I felt like people were doing this all season. Like I had a former friend, well, she was a former player here, but she is my friend. And she kept saying like, oh my goodness, are you going to cry on senior night? Oh my goodness, how are you going to feel when the season's over? Or how are you going to feel? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm okay. I'm like, I don't want to jump the gun, jump too far ahead, because then those emotions start to set in and it throws you off. So my mom was there. So she came and she was with me the night before the game, but we just had conversations about the game and then about the season in itself. And we were just kind of game planning together. I watch film before every game. So I was watching film and just kind of going through my everyday game day stuff and just didn't think about it. I'm like, it's just another day at the office. Got to get the job done. Got to do what I can and do, leave everything I have out on the court. And even once we got back from Villanova, it still took like a day or two for it to register. Like, oh, well, I guess my college career is over now, huh? But in the moment, it just wasn't something I didn't want to overtake me. So I just didn't. I didn't think about it. And even when people were texting me, I would just tell them, like, thank you, but we're not done yet. So let's sit back and watch some good basketball real quick. But I think just committing myself to the game plan and focusing on one game at a time is really what let me not soak it all in. Like, oh, this is the end of the line.
The fact that you didn't register it until a day or two later tells me you really were immersed in the moment. I mean, you committed to that.
I was, just because I always want to be present. I always want to be where my feet are. And my team deserves my undivided attention. Like, when we're out there, we're battling and working on the court for each other. I can't have my mind be somewhere else. Like, they deserve every last bit of me just as much as I deserve every last bit of them. But that's my commitment to them. I made my commitment to this team, and I was trying to give everything I had. And I'm so sad that I fouled out, just because I've never really fouled out of a game, maybe one other time in my career. So that honestly is what pained me the most, that I couldn't even finish the game out with my girls. So the best I could do was just try to be as loud as I could on the bench, but just tried to give everything I am and I have to the team.
I hate fouling out. I mean, like, and I don't mean me personally, because I don't play at a high enough level to be able to foul out. I hate the rule of fouling out. I think the limit should be like 7 or 8. I get the idea of it, but to take a team's top player out of the game in the fourth quarter, it's just I hate it. I hate it, Shay.
I hated it. Honestly, that really is what hurt the most. I just was like, wow. And I felt like I wasn't getting fair calls all night, or it's like some of the calls weren't me. It might have been my other teammate, but they were given to me. But you let it go. You live and learn. And I'm like, the refs are the refs. You can't really blame them on everything because they weren't the ones scoring the baskets. But I felt like that was the most disappointing thing about that game for me.
Right. And that's understandable. Because then the game is actually taken from you.
Yes.
And, right, fair or not fair, they've got the authority to do it. The rule book says 5 fouls, so we'll go by it. When I'm in charge, Shay, we'll change the damn rules. But for now, we'll stick with it.
Yes, let's make it 7. Nice little number.
8, 9. I mean, come on. Let's let the players play. Come on, let's do this.
Yes.
All right, Shay, so back to the 12 over 5. And
okay.
I know so many people see these upsets and they go, wow, what a magical upset. But there's so much that needs to go into it.
Mm-hmm.
You have 2 really good teams going at it, right? The ASUN champs in your case against the Pac-12 champs in Washington State's case. You guys had already beaten one Power 5 team earlier in the year. That was Kentucky, a team that Power 5, yes, but they did struggle a lot. They finished 12 and 19.
I agree.
how do you treat the game differently when you know, oh, okay, we are taking on the champions of the Pac-12. They're a 5 seed. Everyone thinks they're going to win. This is a big, bad program. How do you treat it differently?
Well, I will say this. Coach Semesco is a master at when it comes to game planning. Like, every little nitty-gritty detail down to a T. Like, we're learning these players, their plays in and out. But ultimately, it comes down to our principles, FGCU's principles. But the game planning, I feel like his attention to detail really is the key behind everything. So when we're practicing, so of course, selection Sunday, we find out. I'm almost guaranteeing that night he was watching film on Washington State to
Good.
see, what we're up against, who does what, who are their go-to players and things like that. And we just literally hit the ground running. I think we were having like 2-a-days, and they weren't hard practices, but it was like we'd watch film earlier in the day, walk through a couple things, then come back later, watch some more film, walk through a couple more things just to get us acclimated with the team. And then once we got to Villanova, it was the practice. We're going, we're running through stuff, we're talking through it, things like that. And I think that's really what our game planning was phenomenal. And he was a phenomenal coach when it comes to that. Like, all the keys are there. Obviously, there's going to be some uncontrollables during the game, but essentially the skeleton of everything we want to do, he brings that out, and then we're good.
Little role play here, okay? Let's say it's 10 years from now. I am a Florida Gulf Coast basketball player. Okay. We are, let's say, the 14 seed in the East region, and we're taking on the 3rd seeded Washington Huskies, just so you have the state familiarity, right, with Washington State. Okay. So we're the 14 seed, and I'm like, man, this team's really good, right? They won the Pac-12. I don't know how we're going to beat them. We won a lot of games, but, in a smaller conference. I call you up, Shay, how do you upset a big, bad team like this? What is the number one most important thing? How would you answer that?
I definitely would go with trust. Like I said before, in our game, we had a lot of people step up, a lot of people. And we were trusting each other on defense. So we're making plays. Like, we had a goal in mind of how many turnovers we wanted to force. And everybody was locked in to those types of turnovers that we want to force. So throwing into the post, we're always undersized for the most part. So we understand that we're going to have to help off on the post and things like that. So trusting each other to be there for each other on defense, and then trusting each other to make the right pass, hit the right shots on offense. Like, that, I think, was a huge thing for us, especially when, like you said, they came out hot. They went on their runs. We banded together more so than letting adversity split us apart. And that was the biggest thing, and will continue to be the biggest thing that leads to upsets and winning games. Basketball is way more of a mental game than people like to think.
You said basketball is way more of a mental game than people like to think. Why?
Yes. You know the phrase, life is 10% what happens to you, but 90% of how you react to it, things like that. But because obviously you have to have some type of athletic ability to play basketball, to shoot, to dribble, things like that. But you miss a shot. How you react after that, how you take that miss, determines what you're going to do next, essentially. We call it mistake strength. I turn it over. Do I turn around and foul? Do I sprint back to make up for it? I miss a shot. When I'm open for the next one, am I thinking about that last shot, or am I refreshed like this new one's going in? That's okay. That last one was a fluke. Things like that. Like, it's important to shape how you think when you're playing on the court, because any little thing can disrupt that process. So, like, I know, like, I had my very, very first game here. I think I had like 3 or 5 turnovers, something like that. And that's a lot. And it was so frustrating for myself because I couldn't shake it. It was like a funk, like a heavy cloud. And I'm like, no, like, not today of all days. It's the first game. Like, no. And that followed me the rest of that game. I've learned how to shake that off whenever I get into a rut, which is just taking myself out the rut and cheering for somebody else and letting the good things just kind of circle through the team. But that mental toughness is a huge thing, and mistake strength. You make a mistake, it's all about how do you handle what you do next after that.
And in the context of the NCAA tournament, it's even more important, right? Because you've got more lights, camera, and action. And when you're a 12 seed, you're almost always playing a team that's expected to win.
Exactly.
All right, Jay. So back to the Washington State game
Mm-hmm.
and the mentality you have during the game. You guys come out of the halftime locker room, and Washington State, this is a really good team. They went on a huge run to win the Pac-12 tournament.
Mm-hmm.
They come out, start the third quarter really strong, but then that final 5 of the third, you guys go on a tear, take a 61-48 lead in the third quarter. What are you feeling as that trust starts to turn into results on paper? We're up 13.
I feel like that's when I call it like an electrifying energy just kind of ran through everybody. We're making plays left and right. Maddie Antonucci, I will forever sing her praises, as well as Emma List. Maddie comes out the woodworks with these threes. They're back to back to back. And she's so deserving of these moments. So when it's happening, you can't help but to smile. And it's like, we'll get her another one. We'll get her another one. And she's making plays on defense. Emma is our Dennis Rodman. She does not get enough praise and enough appreciation. She's all over the floor, all over the court, guarding their best player, guarding the post, getting steals, rebounding. She is one of the best passers ever. I think that's because half the time she doesn't want to shoot the ball. And I'd be telling her, like, I need you to score. But we just were in a flow. We couldn't miss. And because we couldn't miss, but it really was honestly because of our defense. We're making plays, we're getting stops, and we're turning that into offense. And I love when we are in those modes, when we're letting our defense fuel our offense. And I really think those 5 minutes, and we said it, we're like, hey, we're about to come out of this media timeout, and it's time for us to go on our run. And everybody locked eyes, and everybody's like, yes, it's time for our run. And then we did. And when those words come to fruition, it's one of the best moments ever. Because, of course, you're like, we're going to come out and get a stop. And sometimes that happens, and sometimes it doesn't. So for us to come out and be like, nope, this is our time to go on our run to make a statement. And then we did it. It was so great.
There's something about speaking it into existence, right? I think there's a lesson there. I think it's misleading to just simply say, if you speak it, it'll happen. Because,
Right.
I mean, I could say, I'm going to, rule the world today, and I'm not. But if you speak it and trust it and it's realistic and you work at it and stay focused, which you checked all those boxes, you made it happen. How did it feel when it happened and you won and you celebrated in the locker room?
Well, I was crying, and the camera was all in my face when I was crying, and I was like, please, can I have a moment of privacy?
Lights, camera, action.
Exactly. But Uju Juice, so she has become such a close confidant. Literally, I love her to pieces. She's telling me, like, what you crying for? Like, you supposed to be here. We're supposed to be here. We doing this because of you. It was very affirming and fulfilling. And in the locker room, water's flying everywhere. Coach Semesco's dancing again. And we were just so happy. We felt like, obviously, Washington State is a great team. We just felt like we had deserved it. We had worked so hard. And everybody stepped up that game. Everybody stepped up. Everybody was on their A game. We played 5 as 1 so that everything that happened, we were giving up good shots for great shots. We called them below the line shots, bad shots. There weren't any of those. We're passing the ball. We're moving. We just felt like it was basketball justice. And that moment was indescribable, to know that I'd worked so hard just to be at where I'm at. So to not only win the ASUN, make it to the NCAA tournament, win a game in the NCAA tournament, and I'm getting interviewed left and right. Like, I was like, I'm trying to tell you guys, I know I'm the spokesperson, a pretty face, but I'm trying to tell you, the people who are behind me, it's them, and I stand 10 toes down behind every single one of my teammates. And that's what made that game that much more special. Everybody was on the same page in the same book, and that's what led to us winning.
Wow. It's a beautiful, chaotic storm, right?
Yes.
You talk about all the adoration and all the attention, and that's what it's about. And frankly, that's what you work so hard for.
Yes, it is. It just was crazy when the interviews, and I feel like, again, I love my story because I'm not used to any of this. So when ESPN wanted to interview me, and then Autumn Johnson wanted to interview me, and I'm like, I'm just a little girl from Michigan. Like, I'm like, I hope I'm giving you guys a good story, because My words, I felt like they were jumbled, but they were all genuine and pure, and it was an unbelievable experience to be a part of.
Jumbled words are sometimes the best words, Shay. It's amazing that you experienced that. I'm really curious about this, though, because I'm fascinated by come downs. And you go from that moment where you're like, wow, we won. This is awesome. I'm with my teammates. We're celebrating. Being interviewed by ESPN. You then play Villanova, lose that game, fly home to Florida, and now you're in your apartment prepping for the rest of your life, which is finishing your master's degree, declaring for the WNBA draft, and seeing what's next. And you go from the structure of this program with all the teammates and all that happens to you planning for life by yourself or with family. So how does that feel mentally to make that huge transition?
I I feel like it doesn't feel as crazy. And let me tell you why. For two reasons. One, because I didn't like basketball initially in my life and I wanted to be a soccer player. I first soccer was my first love, so that just was what it was. But school has always been the number one important thing to me. So even making my decision to go to Walsh and to transfer, the school had to have my majors. So I want to be a detective. So for me, I feel like I've always had two life paths: one to be a detective and one to continue playing basketball. Obviously, at first, the detective one was first and foremost. So I'm like, oh, okay, like I'll let basketball pay for school. This is cute. Clearly, that's not the case anymore. But I want to continue my basketball career first and then be a detective. So, yes, the next step is my master's degree is 100% important to me, which is why when we were done, I wanted to clarify how things work from this point on, my books and things like that, because I want my master's in criminal justice because being a detective will absolutely happen for me in the future. So that part doesn't feel as crazy because I'm like, that was always plan A, actually. So that's good. But I'm actually in a pageant right now. Unbeknownst to, I know, not a lot of people know right now.
A
But there's a
pageant.
pageant coming up. Yes.
Tell me about it.
So it's called the Miss Black and Gold, or yes, Miss Black and Gold. They recently changed it to the Miss Old Gold and Black, and it's associated with the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. And it's more than just a beauty pageant. It's to celebrate excellence of women, excellence and academics of women, and just to be strong and powerful role models just in the community. So the mission of the brothers is to develop leaders in brotherhood, but also promote service and advocacy in the communities. So that's what the pageant is also about. So I got nominated actually by my academic advisor, Maggie, a couple months ago. And it was a whole process. Got to get interviewed, got to narrow down the stakes. So I made the final cut. We've been having practices and things like that. So I will say the timing of everything kind of is perfect because I left one kind of organized practice team to having a different type of organized practice team. So we're practicing the walking in the heels and the impromptu questions and things like that. So that has been a completely different experience, something I never would have thought I would have done before. But it's been so much fun. So the pageant is in a couple weeks, and I think that has been helpful in a sense of you're absolutely correct. You go from having the structure of waking up, practice at 7, lift at 11, eat at 12, then it's homework, then it's this and it's that. So now it's just kind of open. So having my pageant practices actually has helped me not feel like, a lot of athletes feel like they're lost after their season is over because they've attached themselves to their sport. And I won't say I've felt that yet, because I'm sure that's coming soon. But I feel like I have been actively involving myself in other things. And you're right. It's real lifetime. So now it's like, okay, I declare for the draft. Fingers crossed in Jesus' name, I get called. That's the different path. I don't. So now it's okay. What does overseas look like? An agent. When do I leave? What country? Things like that. Now it is all real life big girl stuff. And to me, it's exciting. This is the point of my life that I've always looked forward to because this is the part where I get to be an adult. I still call my mom for a lot of random things, but this is the part I'm excited for, to travel the world, to be on my own, to just have this is like, those movies, the little rom-coms where they're like, I moved to a different state and now they're just trying to take over the world. Like that's me. And I'm excited. So I'm trying to enjoy my last few months here in Florida. I love my teammates. They've definitely become family and I'm trying to soak in all of this warm weather as much as possible. before I take off and start my new journey. So I have to say, I feel like I'm blessed to say that I haven't felt that homesickness or that lost feeling of being separated from my sport, but also I love lifting and working out. So that's never really lost in that and who I am. But I feel like I also understand that basketball was never who I was or what I am. I am still just Sha Carter. Now I'm a beauty pageant contestant, and I'm happy. Obviously, like I said, a bittersweet moment to understand that my collegiate career has come to an end, but to understand it's just that my collegiate career has come to an end. That next step, that next basketball journey is going to be crazy.
Yeah, nothing's over. It's just a new transition.
Exactly.
And the lesson there that I take, that I try to think about is, right, you're Shay, I'm Sam. We are these people. You're way more than just a basketball player, just a future detective, just a beauty pageant contestant, and I'm way more than a sports broadcaster and a podcast host, right? It's all that could disappear, and we are just us. And trusting that makes life easier.
Sorry, what'd you say, Sam?
I said trusting that makes life a lot easier, doesn't it?
No, it absolutely does. And I think that's why, like, I'm so happy I didn't start playing basketball when I was like 3. You know, a lot of people burn out easily when they do that. Like, they hit this point in their life and they're like, I don't really like it. So I feel like that helped me, though, because I was in orchestra, taught myself to play the piano, like, just doing random different things to learn about myself so that I'm able to separate the athlete from the person. And I know that's hard, and I know that's hard. And I think I thought about that in high school. Like, I was like, oh my goodness, like, I don't know what I'd be doing if I wasn't playing basketball. And I feel like now, because I had those kind of thoughts in high school, I was able to separate myself to be able to understand, like, one day the ball's going to stop bouncing. And I have to be ready for that moment, which is why my career of being a detective, I'm so looking forward to it. Like, getting bad guys, solving crimes, like, it's going to be so much fun. It's going to be scary, but it's going to be fun.
That's the dream. Shay, you're so ahead of your years, right? You're mature clearly from your days just as a young girl playing piano and thinking ahead and thinking beyond basketball. So on that note, I want to end with this, both selfishly and for all of the listeners out there. Give me and give us a piece of advice.
Just about life? Just about anything?
Whatever you want.
Oh,
Could be a good recipe if you want.
I feel like I'm on the spot. I don't know. I feel like, okay, so every day walking home from school in high school, there was this sign on this mailbox, and it said, smile. It confuses people. And every time I would smile, just like you did, the minute I read it, I'm smiling because I'm like, what? And I feel like I've heard all my life, especially on my basketball career. You're always smiling. You're always smiling. Like, I love your smile. You always look like you're having fun. And because I am. And so if I could give any advice, it would just be to smile even when you don't feel like it. Like, I feel like there's times where I'm running sprints up and down the court and I'm trying to cheese and smile because science says when you smile, it makes your body feel like you're enjoying what's happening. But for me, I just took it like, even on a bad day, even in a bad situation, there's always a silver lining. There's always a good thing. So for me, I always try to find the good in everything, any person. And smiling is something that, which is ironic because I don't like my smile, but it makes everybody else feel good, which makes me feel good. So I'm like, okay, I'll just cheese a lot, and it feels natural. And I love smiling, and I'm a goofy person. So my advice is to find the good in any and everything whenever you can, and when you can't, be the good thing in the situation.
That's the cheapest drug there is. Smile.
Yes, and I agree.
Shay, that's awesome advice. I love that mailbox. That's in your hometown in Michigan?
It's literally on my street, one of my neighbors, just further down the street. And I used to always look at it and just read it and be like, what? Until it's like, those moments like, okay, let's say something, God forbid, bad happens, but you're smiling out of it. People are honestly going to be confused. Like, if you got into, I don't want to say anything like really bad. That's scary. I almost had a car accident, but like, let's say you failed the test, right?
Uh-huh.
And your friends are like, oh my God, Sam, like, you got a D, like, but you're cheesing, like, you're happy.
Yeah,
You're like,
I'll get an A next time.
Yeah, you're like, it just means like I get a chance to figure out what I need to do better, this and that. They're genuinely gonna be confused because why are you smiling right now? And I feel like I've been through enough trials and tribulations to know that sometimes you just gotta smile through it because the outcome always outweighs everything that you've been through.
That is so wise. Luckily, I've never gotten a D on a test, though.
Okay, see, good. See, yeah, I'm like,
I would get an A and
out
smile,
there.
Shay. Such great advice. And to those who are watching and listening, just smile right now, wherever you are. You might not see it painted on a mailbox. Maybe you're in your car, your office, a walk on the street, cooking. Just smile.
A quick little smile.
Shay, you are awesome. Thank you so much for joining on the Mental Game. Congrats on an amazing career. I mean, 5 years, 2,000 points, tons of NCAA tournaments, accolades. I know that's all amazing, but that's just you as a basketball player. So I'll say congrats on the college basketball career you've had, the professional basketball career you will have, and the professional detective career that you're going to have that will last a lifetime. And I hope you win the pageant.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for having me.
Hey everyone, Sam back here in the studio. What a great chat with Sha Carter. Isn't she awesome? I mean, the mentality to say, hey, I'm a college basketball player and my career's over, but that's just my career playing college basketball. First of all, I'm still going to play pro. Second of all, I'm going to be a detective, and that's what I really want. And third of all, I'm just me. And detective, basketball, that could all go by the wayside. She'll be great in whatever she does. She's got that mentality. She's got the attitude. Totally kick-ass Sha Carter. So big thanks to Sha for coming on and to the FGCU athletic department for helping make it happen. Awesome powwow on the mental game. I hope it changes the way you watch the NCAA tournament a little bit, right? These teams, 16 seed, right? FDU beating the 1 seed Purdue. Right, they believe. You have to trust yourself a little bit, and it's happened. So clearly it's not unrealistic, like my little plot to rule the world that I brought up to Shay. But anyway, this has been the Mental Game Podcast. Of course, many more coming. Hope you're enjoying the new video feature. As always, if you have any feedback, please leave it in the comments or tweet me. I'm at SamBrief, brief like briefcase, on Twitter. So feel free to reach out anytime. Always open to feedback and appreciate you watching and supporting the mental game. So that'll do it from now. Make sure you take care of yourself, take care of others, and I'll talk to you next time. Adios from Chicago.